Is it working now? I think I had it on the mute button the entire time. So you keep that microphone. Sorry about that, guys. I guess I was doing some. You got it. All right. So I'm sorry, you guys. So just to give you a quick little run through, we talked about a couple of things. A lot of what we have been doing in regards to the community with our COVID vaccination site, with giving away boxes of food, also giving away 1,000 book bags and the like. Salvation in regards to one of our members, and also still being open even after being through such a tough time. What many people do not know is that I was in the hospital last year, December the 31st, because of a lot of stress and strain because of COVID, even going through certain health issues that was not even related to COVID, and also being concerned with my family, dealing with the kids, with them learning from home. It was just a tremendous amount of stress. And I was having heart palpitations. I thought I was having a heart attack, but thanks be to God, they just said you just need to slow down, get your blood pressure under control, and do not worry about things that you cannot control. So the last couple of months, several months, 18 plus months or so, has not been easy, but I could definitely say that it has been easier. We also talked about recently about Marcano and the tragedy that happened in Orlando, and we wanted to pray in regards to that. And then fast forward to what we have going on right now with Coach Urban Meyer. And so without getting into the details of that, here's one thing that you need to be very aware of. Of course, he's a married man, and he's a person that is of powerful stature. It is very important for you to govern yourselves accordingly when you have been blessed with a lot of power and influence. There's an enemy that goes about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And one of the things that the enemy likes to do is he likes to take heads. And let me explain this just for a moment. In Scripture, in the story of David and Goliath, when David went against the Philistines' champion Goliath, he not only slayed him with one of the rocks out of that set of 5 smooth stones, he then proceeded to totally decimate the enemy by a show of force and intimidation. See, a lot of times when people win wars or if they fight, they not only want to defeat the enemy, but they also want to humiliate the enemy. And one of the things that David did is that he decapitated Goliath and then showed his head to all of the nation of Israel as well as the Philistines to intimidate them greatly. And so to repay the favor, Goliath's brothers, Ishbi-Benob, Sippai, Lakshmi, the one with 6 fingers and 6 toes, also came after David to try to take his head, to try to return the favor. And so here's the wisdom of all of this. When you are the head of the household, when you are a leader, one of stature, it is so important for you to have integrity even when you think no one is looking. It is of the utmost importance. You can be yourself, but there are certain things that you should not do in the public square. And I also understand that things are not perfect and people are not perfect. However, albeit and notwithstanding, you need to definitely make sure that your good deeds are not evil spoken of. A lot of the scrutiny that I believe happens is because there's a lot of people that are rooting for Urban Meyer. I know that I am, especially as a Jacksonville native and a fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars. In part, I'm number one in regards to the New York Giants because the New York Giants basically had a team at that time and Jacksonville did not. But either way, you don't want people to go through specific situations, but to all of the leaders that are out there, and this is male or female, you want to make sure that you have the highest integrity. This is one of the things I've learned from my dad, my spiritual father, as well as even through different types of books with Dr. Miles Monroe. My wife and I had the privilege of being able to meet him before he passed away in that plane crash several years ago, and it was such a tragic event. But one of the things he always would talk about is integrity, 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 over and over again, character and integrity in private circles, in large circles. You never want to be put into a compromising situation because people are always going to look at you sideways from that point forward. So it's important. So going back to the story of David, the enemy wants to try to do the reverse. He always wants to try to take the head out, leadership out. And here's the reason why. It's not so much of the individual that he's after all of the individuals that are following that head. If the head goes away, then so does the body. If the devil could have gotten to Jesus Christ, then there would be no body of Christ. But what did Jesus do? He defeated the enemy in the wilderness, in the most extreme situations, circumstances when he could have compromised, but he did not compromise. And that should serve as an example today. I don't know if Urban Meyer is saved. I don't know if he knows the Lord. There may have been inklings of that throughout his career, but we just want to make sure that we have our leaders lifted up, and also lift me up as well. It's Pastor's Appreciation Month, and it also happens to be Halloween too. I don't know why they have those two going on at the same time, but here's what I do know. The devil is defeated. God is still on the throne, and there is nothing that's stronger than the blood of Jesus. So make sure that you keep your integrity intact. Another piece of news and notes is that COVID cases are dropping. I was looking at some of the articles on today, and we're seeing that people are starting to change the curve in regards to this. When the height of the pandemic was going on, it was a lot of people who were dying left and right, and some of them just because of some of the things that are passed around on social media, and other things is just because it would just happen to be by chance that it affected them, and it also taken them out of this world. And so I'm just so thankful to God that the cases are going down, and I still believe that it is a reminder to us, especially those of us who are of the human species, that we are not invulnerable. We are not invincible. God has given us and every man an appointment to die, and then the judgment, whether it's by COVID, whether it's by a car accident, whether it's by natural causes. The main thing that you do not want to do is that when God allows for there to be a solution, that you do not take proper precautions, whether it's not taking the vaccine and you boosting your immune system, or whether it is taking the vaccine and making sure that you do not listen to a bunch of things that are on social media, conspiracy theories in the dark web, that's going to influence your decision. Make sure that you're intelligent enough, and also use your spiritual discernment either way. But the main thing is that you got to do something. You can't hide from this. You can't just wear a mask, because when you eat inside of a restaurant, when you eat, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. So make sure that you are careful. And I understand some people are saying to themselves, well, I'll just wait until the pandemic is over. People, let me just tell you this. It is going from a pandemic to an endemic. In other words, it's just going to be a part of our society. We're going to have to live with it for an extended amount of time. I said this several months ago. A lot of people are like, yeah, but now you're seeing that really come about. So take care of yourselves. There's vaccines that's out there. And even if you're not going to take vaccines, they're now working on a pill that can help treat COVID if you happen to catch it, and they can take it orally. It has not been released as of yet, but they are working on it very soon, and they're also working on vaccines for the younger population of our children. In California right now, they are in a position to where all of the students, before they go back to school, have to be vaccinated. All of the students. So either you're going to homeschool or you're going to send them to school. And that's going to be a very significant thing, because what a lot of people don't know, especially among the African-American crowd, it almost seems like conservative white Americans and African-Americans who are from the neighborhood are on the same page in regards to the vaccine. So you need to just be careful what your alliances are, and do what's best for you and your family, and do not get into the group think. Because what I don't want is to have to bury people unnecessarily just because of fear or ignorance. All right. So just make sure that you govern yourselves accordingly. But thanks be to God, especially I looked at the numbers of Seminole County. Seminole County has very, very few COVID cases that have been popping up, and very few deaths now because of the vaccines, and also people wearing their masks. And now people are starting to come from out of the shadows. And there's a lot of opportunities in regards to that. So please keep those things in mind. And now one of the things I wanted to pivot to before we go into our main topic is one of the things I've been thinking about quite a bit outside of COVID, outside of leaders and what people have been going through over the last several months. And that is what really lies ahead for the church in the urban context. In other words, what are some of the trends that are out there? and I've been seeing a lot of things personally myself. But I wanted to start with one specific area, and this is in the area of worship. But before I do that, Fury and Wilder, Part 3. So my man over here, who is our resident boxing expert, I don't want to call him Teddy Atlas, but because you got one of your eyes got to droop if you Teddy Atlas. So which one are you think is going to win this time around? You can talk to the mic.
Well, when you think about this fight, if I had to choose a winner, you got to go with Deontay Wilder.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Wilder knows that this fight will be the biggest fight of his career. And it's no secret that Tyson Fury is out of shape. He's not been conditioning well for this fight. He's making every excuse to get the fight postponed. I think it's like the second or third time they had to find a date for the fight. Mm-hmm. So I think Fury is actually probably kind of not knowing what to expect from Wilder, because Wilder has been playing it cool. He's been training very good, and he's always in great shape. He's in peace condition, which Fury is not. So I look for Wilder to go into this fight with a cool, calm spirit, and that he's going to take it slow at first, but I think he's going to come with that right hand somewhere in the middle of the fight, and it's going to be lights out.
What say y'all? What do y'all think? Because I know that I watched a little bit of the fight the last time, and I don't know, it seemed like Wilder was on some other vibe. All I know is it seemed like he was humbled greatly that last fight. You know, just the way that, you know, Tyson Fury talked to him and all those different types of things. It was really significant in regards to that. So compare, what do you see differently from Wilder and Fury last time as opposed to this time? Because it seemed like Tyson Fury was out of shape the last time too.
Yeah, I actually was able to do a little research, and I found out that for the rematch, the second fight, they both came in a little heavier. I think Deontay Wilder weighed at 231. Mm-hmm. In the first fight, it was 212, and then Fury was 256, I believe, on the rematch, and then he was at 273. And I'm pretty sure if he's not training and conditioning well, he's probably near 300 pounds. So he's been having a hard time to get into shape. And you look at their body, they did have two different body types. But I look for Fury to, like I said, he's having a hard time getting in shape. And he uses every excuse in the book. And if you do your research, you actually can find out that the last fight is very controversial when you see that Fury may have cheated with his gloves. And was Wilder with bare knuckles.
Oh, really?
He dented Wilder's skull, and I think something to his eardrum as well. And I think the water might have been spiked, and it was just so much going on. So this time around, it's going to be very watched very closely in the dressing room. The cameras was off at certain times in the dressing room, so a lot of stuff was going on in that second fight that I believe will not happen this time around. So Fury, I believe, is going to be in for a rude awakening coming Saturday.
Okay, all right, everybody. So the pay-per-view, if y'all want to pay for it, is $79.99. So we're going to try to find a local establishment to try to pop up. You never know. Maybe somebody will bless me, and I'll have it at the house. We will see. But I'm definitely looking forward to the fight. I love heavyweight fights. I'm a Mike Tyson fan. I think that as far as my area is concerned, Mike Tyson is the best fighter of all time. I don't care. Even if he has a piece of ear inside of his tongue, he's still the best fighter. He's still the best fighter of all time. Everybody at my school wanted to be like him, from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out even to right now. I don't know what happened with him and who was the guy that he was fighting against most recently? Roy Jones. That was good, and Roy Jones still has a little bit. I think that Roy Jones just needed to be a little bit more conditioning. But the one recent fight that was kind of sad was Evander Holyfield going against that MMA guy. I forgot what his name is. Not Tito Ortiz, but maybe it was him or maybe it was somebody else. But Evander Holyfield got beat silly. He's 58 years old. The other man was like 51 or 50 years old. and it was like no contest. I think he got knocked out. Like it was like technical knockout, so that means he went down like 3 times. So sometimes you need to hang it up. I still think that Mike Tyson should have won that fight a long time ago against Holyfield before the whole ear biting incident, because Holyfield was headbutting him like crazy, and so Mike Tyson, he just went crazy off of the deep end. But as far as this particular fight, I'm choosing Deontay Wilder to actually win. I never really believed in Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury does have quick hands, and so I'll give him to that. So thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate it. Any other thoughts in regards to sports? This man knows a lot about boxing. He's like, I did my research.
Well, I was gonna add real quick. I think even with that loss, that we just mentioned, Holyfield. I think Holyfield still wants to fight Tyson in another fight.
Oh gosh, are y'all for? Would y'all watch that? You said you wouldn't watch. You said you would. You said you wouldn't. Why not? He just say he's just old. But I mean, Tyson still got hands though. You still watch it? He still got hands. I still think he still got hands. Yeah, it was kind of rough watching. Evander Holyfield, and then your boy Anthony Joshua. He's such a disappointment. Did y'all hear about that? He's such a disappointment, man. I was like, this dude, he's from the UK. He got muscles in his forehead, and he got messed around. I think that was Ruiz was the first guy, and he got beat silly by Ruiz, and Ruiz looked like he was out of shape. So I don't know. That's why I said I'm not going to put it too past Fury this time around. I won't go by the out of shape too much, because Ruiz looked like he was out of shape too. But I think that Anthony Joshua, I thought that it was going to be an Anthony Joshua Wilder. And I don't know if it's going to happen now, because I don't think that Anthony Joshua, unless he, changes or does something differently, I don't think that he's going to make it moving forward. All right. So thank you, my brother. Any other thoughts? You got it? You good?
Well, since I'm up there, I might as well give my wife a shout out.
Oh Lord! Hey, Sharon, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
So yeah, give my wife a shout out. She's probably at home watching right now. So hopefully I didn't do too bad.
All right, brother. Get out of here. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate you. Jose Rodriguez. He will be at the closest place, somewhere out in the streets, watching the fight. Look at his cup just to make sure that he stays clean. We want to make sure he stays on the right path. And don't y'all be betting out there and casting lots and nothing like that. Just watch it and keep on and mind your business, right? Now, one of the things I wanted to pivot to our main segment for tonight, we're only going to be here just a little bit longer, is some of the things that I have been seeing in regards to ministry in the post-pandemic world. And I have a couple of observations, and this is just something that I just want to touch on very quickly as far as some trends that I see going on into 2022. Someone say number one, bivocational leadership will become the norm. Bivocational leadership will become the norm. And this is not just for roles of the pastor, but this is also for other roles inside of the church. And this is what I mean by that. There was a time when full-time ministry was like the pinnacle, was the goal for a lot of people back in the 80s and 90s, and even for much of the 2000s. But since the pandemic and since things have shifted out there, a lot of budgets for churches have changed and have contracted in large part. And there are a lot of ministries that have a lot of people, but they might not necessarily have the dollars to be able to support a pastor full time without that pastor getting a full time job. And so in my personal case, I have been a bivocational pastor. And let me give you the definition of what bivocational means. Bivocational is actually a concept that goes all the way back to Paul and Jesus, as well as many of the other dignitaries that are inside of the Bible, even back to Moses. Moses was a shepherd. David was a shepherd, but he also led a nation. Moses also led many people as a priest. The other thing with Jesus was also a carpenter, and even most recently, in regards to the New Testament, one of the most well-known characters outside of Jesus in the New Testament was also Peter, and Peter was a tent maker. And the reason why they took up these occupations is so that they would not be a further burden to the ministry. Now, of course, you may have heard the scripture says that you do not want to muzzle the ox, because if you muzzle an ox, a muzzle is basically something that covers over the mouth of an animal. And one of the things that an ox needs to have in order to keep its strength is that it needs to eat the grass that is set before it. And so when it says don't muzzle the ox, that means that you don't want to keep the ox working and working and working and then do not reciprocate. Meaning that if there are ministries that can afford, if there are ministries that can help, that can provide some type of assistance to the pastor, even if it's a stipend, then it's something that will be greatly appreciated, because that particular individual, that pastor or that leader, labors a lot. And that's pretty common in regards, or becoming more and more common in the body of Christ today, where you have a pastor that preaches and teaches and prepares, but because of the financial situation of the church, or not wanting to be a burden to the church, like Paul, like Jesus, especially with Paul, they also had an occupation so they could support themselves while also at the same time supporting the people of God. And this is important twofold. Number one, the preacher can preach freely without having to worry about if a certain family or a certain group of people may not like a certain topic, and therefore they'll withhold their support in order to control the person's mouth. So there's freedom there in regards to having the benefit of being a bivocational pastor. And then there's also not having to worry about being an undue burden on the ministry. One of the main reasons why we have been so successful in our ministry is, I believe, at least from a financial standpoint, is that I've been bivocational since its very beginning. God has blessed me tremendously personally through my outside job. I work as a technical trainer for a major company, one of the number one companies in the world, and I've been doing that for several years, and I've been in IT for several years, even outside of that. And so, with that being said, that allows for me to be able to not have to worry about if I can feed my family or not. You get what I'm saying? Or pay bills or certain other different types of things. And so it has allowed for me to have that level of freedom. And it also pushes away a lot of the skepticism sometimes that people have when they join ministries or they see certain leaders with certain types of things inside of the house of the Lord. Well, he must have gotten this car from X, Y, and Z. But I believe that that is going to help bolster a lot of the integrity a lot of people will have, because they will see that the person has diversity in regards to their income. Now, if God allows for things to change in the future, then by all means, full-time ministry is what it is. But I believe that I've been doing full-time ministry and just having another job anyway. It just will be that you'll be able to concentrate on one thing as opposed to two. But I believe that there's something behind having or there's advantages to being bivocational, in that you get a chance to reach a lot of people that you normally would not reach. In my field, especially in information technology, there are a lot of people who do not believe in God, and or if they do believe in God, it's some weird type of hodgepodge of beliefs kind of smashed together. Kind of like, it seems like almost everybody, but in my specific field, everybody's systematic, logical thinking, very technical. It is all about science. And so just to be that word, sometimes I preach in my class, I pray for people, I say, God bless you on my way out, and they still give me high ratings anyway. Sometimes they see my background with my lions, and they see my little scriptures on there on my desktop. And I have some people that reach out to me, foreigners, people who are not even American, and people who may be Asian. They'll say, well, I'm so glad that you're praying, and God bless you. I'm like, wow. So this oftentimes provides an advantage for you to be able to preach the gospel to normal audiences that you would not be able to get in contact with. And the other trend that I see is that it's not just going to be the pastor only, but musicians and other key leaders inside of the church will have to have other supplement income even outside of that, outside of the things that they would see inside of ministry, right? So a lot of the musicians that you see that are out there, that pandemic knocked a lot of that church supplement income, it knocked it out completely. And now with a lot of ministries starting to merge and a lot of places closing, now you have a lot of musicians that's just playing secular music that are out there and really not coming back to the church. So there is really a lot of things that are happening today. So what I would admonish that you would do is that if you love the Lord like I do and you have a skill set, consider giving your gift to the house of the Lord, but also not burdening that particular ministry, and just get a job. It's the same thing when it comes to pastors too. Pastors, you have to come to the point, especially if your ministry is not to that point as of yet. There is nothing wrong with you just getting a plain old job. It brings integrity. You get a new circle of people, and you never know who you may come across in your place of business. People like to describe this as Pharaoh's house. So I see it not only in the pulpit, but I also see it among different types of other leadership positions that normally get paid in the house of the Lord. Because of the times that we're in, we're going to start seeing more and more bivocational positions, whether it's a secretary, whether it's a musician, whether it's a pastor, whether it's other full-time positions, groundskeepers. All of these individuals that usually are employed full-time by the church will now have to seek employment outside of that because of the times that we are in. Another thing that I see as a trend is a smaller facility footprint. I was reading an article, I think it was on Axiom, just the other day, and it was saying that construction for ministries has now gone down exponentially during the pandemic. It could be for whatever reason, but other industries are booming, but churches are not being built and have not been built over the last year and a half plus. And this probably is because a lot of the big box churches, people are moving away from that model and now starting to move into multi-site, multi-campus, or buildings that have multiple purposes. So like a lot of people wonder, well, you know, Pastor Martin, why don't you take this building that you have and make it an entire sanctuary? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, because I believe that you should maximize your space. Whether if need be, if our seating capacity gets beyond where it needs to be at, then you have multiple services. But you leave the other spaces inside of that facility for other businesses and other things to go on throughout the week, so that the ministry can be sustained by other streams of income. In our particular ministry, our ministry supports the daycare, not vice versa. We support them by providing place, providing shelter, other different types of means that will support them as they're getting their business up and running. And we have other things that's going on that's going to be supported by the church in the future, whether it's employment and other things. And so this is a model that I see going forward, and also a model that is on full display by my spiritual father as well as many other leaders around the nation. There's also going to be other new ministry opportunities for a lot of people. New ministry opportunities, meaning that I believe that things can't be done the same way. You're going to have to do things different in this moment of time, not to attract people, but to engage the people that are already there. So like a podcast, that's a ministry. Somebody may not come to church, they may not come to a Bible study, but they sure enough can understand you talking about Ray Ray and Pookie and them on Real Housewives of Atlanta, and why or how would Jesus deal with a situation like that, right? Because these are things that we're dealing with in our everyday lives, and I think that is so important. And so what lies ahead for the church? Bivocational leadership, smaller facility footprint, or multi-site and or multi-purpose buildings will become more and more prevalent out there, and also new ministry opportunities. In other words, being able to think outside of the box. And then last but not least, in regards to worship, I also see that there's going to be more worship services at different locations. And so more recently, we will be in Leesburg this upcoming 29th. I think it's 28th or 29th. Which one is it? 28th or 29th. And we will be in Leesburg for the Lifestyle Worship is a Lifestyle Conference. We're going to take a number of our members down there just to fellowship and have a wonderful time. And so it's nothing wrong with getting from behind the four walls and doing what we have to do in the community and letting other people hear your voices. I also see in regards to worship that there will be fewer services during the week. And so like tonight, we're doing our podcast. This Sunday, there's been many times I've contemplated, hey, well, let's just have Sunday services during the year only, or during the major part of the year. And then during the summer, let's just, or during the year, just have Bible study during the year. And then during the summer, just going to one service a week. And then just doing the rest of it online. So even myself, I'm starting to think of different ways that are outside of the box, because people have so many things that are going on. But something happened that kind of may change that thinking going forward, and that's a pandemic. So everybody that was in the house, now everybody wants to be outside of the house. No one wants to be behind those four walls. No boy. Do y'all want to stay in the house for another year? You want to stay in the house for a couple? Nobody wants to stay in the house anymore. And I believe that we're starting to see that a little bit with the church even now. We've gotten a lot more visitors. There have been a lot of churches that are closing, but there's a lot of places that are still opening. But I believe that there's a lot of people out there that have been displaced and still need a house of the Lord, because there's power in fellowship. Jesus never said, stay at your house and be the body. He never said that. You are the church and you go to church. But if you are a part of the church never said for you to be by yourself. The church is meant there to be a source of exhortation, to a source of encouragement, but most of all, discipleship. Discipleship is something that has to be face to face. Discipleship is when you develop the child of God in the things of God through modeling before them what a child of God is supposed to be like, and also teaching them. And when you're at home, here's one thing that I learned, even with all of the views that we have for our messages and things of that nature, I learned that it takes, most people watch 3.5 minutes of a message. 3.5. Ooh, pastor, hey. Ooh, praise T. Hey, you got some people that watch praise T for a few minutes and then they click on to something else. You have people that'll scoot and fast forward to the benediction and they get something else. Where are the main points at? Right? And so what are we having here? The same thing that's happening to a lot of our children when they went through the pandemic and they had to stay home, and then parents may not have been equipped to teach them. Then you have a large spike of illiteracy, a lot of mental problems because you didn't have that face-to-face interaction. How do you think it's happening when it comes to people who don't go to church and have not gone to church and have not heard teaching for such a long time? Massive biblical illiteracy. So we want to make sure that we are efficient as we move forward, but not so efficient until we work ourselves out of our relationship with God. I also believe that there's going to be less traditional forms of worship. People like singing, but I also like dance. I also like rap. I also like mime. I also like the fine arts. And so I do believe these things are going to be more prevalent in the house of the Lord. And I also believe that there's coming a time where Divine Truth, maybe sometime in the future, will have a bilingual service, whether it's in Spanish or whether it's in Haitian Creole. Whatever God has decided, or even if it's in Swahili or some other type of indigenous language, I believe those things are going to be happening in the future. One of the things our prophet said as I close is that some of the main people who will support your ministry are going to be foreigners. And these are people who are not Americans, whether they're black or white, right? So I do believe that that's up and coming. I also see that there's going to be more diversity in the pulpit. One of the things that Lifeway Research says is that fewer churches are now led by white senior pastors compared to the late 1990s. Matter of fact, in 1998, more than 3 in 4 congregations had a white pastor, which was 76%. Now that has fallen to 64.6%. The share of Hispanic pastors has grown from 1.8% to 5.2%. So this gospel is going to get out. God says he'll take from one and give to another. So if people are dropping the ball, getting into things they have no business getting into, or not passing on the faith to other children because we want to give our children all of these different types of choices and not train them up in the admonition of the Lord, there's coming a day, and Lady Martin was talking with me about this before. It says there's coming a day, like in the book of Judges, to where the generation will not know the ways of the Lord because their parents did not have a relationship with God. Is that Gen Z? I don't know. Was it the millennials? I don't think so, because millennials are like our little brothers and sisters. So they went to church just like we did. But there's many of us who do not want our children to have training in the things of God. We want them to make their own choices. But every man does what they think is right in their own eyes. So that's not a good choice either. And then last but not least, more age in the pulpit. I believe this research is correct in that the average age of a senior pastor has grown from the age of 49 to 57 today. Woo-wee. I guess I got 10 more years to be the norm, right? And I also see more expressive worship as well as more technology involved, all things that we have been doing on a regular basis. And so streaming is here to stay. Technology is here to stay. Engagement is here to stay as well. Well, people of God, I hope and pray that this podcast was something that was enjoyable to you. We talked about a whole lot of topics, a lot of different things, but I hope and pray during these last final remarks, as they play my outro music and we get those things rolling and going, that you learned something, that you were entertained. We look forward to doing this again on next month. Were there any people that had any questions? Y'all have any questions, any topics that y'all want to talk about tonight? What you got? All right, come on up here, Demetrius. Just come on up here. All right, America. as we go without our credits, I'm going to have this one young man come up here. Come on up here, Demetrius. Now, he just got saved. But now, oh, my God. So, once again, I got to put Duval County, again, one more time.
Oh, man.
So, you said, what again?
What you gonna do
What I'm going to do for about what?
when Tampa Bay beat New York Giants?
They ain't going to beat them.
All right, we gonna see.
We going to see. You actually calling it now?
I'm calling.
We play
it
against
now.
y'all?
Yeah, you gonna play against us soon. Very soon. I think that's in the lineup.
So, okay. So, we're
gonna
going
be like,
to, so
yeah,
I believe that
wait.
we need to have a gentleman's wager here. Not no money involved. But we could do like Shannon Sharp and Skip. We could do like Shannon Sharp and Skip. So if Tampa Bay loses, you got to buy me a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper.
Okay. And if I win,
If you win,
you gotta buy me a big container. One of them big containers. What them is? A little water bottle. Yeah,
a gallon of tap water. All right, it's fine. We can do that.
The water bottle.
What is
I put
that?
my water in. It's a gallon. It tells me on the daily. And it got to be a Tampa Bay one. So when I walk in church,
Come and get your boy,
so when I
Shantae.
walk in church,
Come and get your boy.
and I hold it up like this right here. There's no Tampa Bay was drinking.
Yeah, these
water.
mic. He said use a mic.
It was drinking
Why you asking this man to
water.
talk more trash about this
Okay,
thing?
so when, like I said, when Tampa Bay wins, I'm coming to church with my big Tampa Bay gallon of water and be like, you thirsty? Because me and Jonas was showing up thirsty on the sideline.
Now I wear. Do you even have a Tampa Bay jersey?
I'm going to get me one.
Oh Lord, how can you consider yourself a fan?
Because I was really for
That's
Warren
it.
Sapp. I was looking for Warren Sapp.
Flag on the play.
Oh, man.
Flag on the play. I need to get my flags from in the back too. So once again, everybody, thank y'all so much for coming out. I want you to get me the when you do buy my drinks, I want you to get me the Dr. Pepper vanilla kind. You can only get it from Wawa.
Gotcha.
Now don't get it from no corner store that still got dust on it or nothing like that. Now full price. Full price. Now this water bottle, I might put like Tom Brady photo on it and just tape it to the bottom.
I don't want Tom Brady. See, I was a fan way before. I was a fan way before Tom Brady. See, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Training. You gotta think about Warren Sapp.
Good night. Warren Sapp.
You gotta think
I'll
about
give it to you.
legends.
Warren Sapp was pretty good.
You gotta think
And
about
Dominic
legends.
Sue was pretty good.
Thank you. The legend.
You know, John Lynch was good. I like the Tampa 2 defense when Tony Dungy. You know that team was not that team was Tony Dungy's team. Y'all gotta check your pass, man.
Tampa Bay gonna do it too.
Special, and we're going to talk through all of these teams, especially that guy out there who has the Seattle Seahawks and whatnot, of Russell Wilson and Sierra. That's the only thing that y'all got going on, the Sierra, Russell Wilson, and that's it. Who's y'all running game? TK Metcalf? DK Metcalf? Good night, everybody.